Hello, I'm Simon Whistler. You're watching Today I Found Out, and in the video today, the Real Doc Holliday. And just before I get started, I would like to say that if you're looking for something else to watch a little bit different from this channel, you should check out Picture the Recipe. It's a place where you can see videos about how to make delicious food. You can find a link to that in the description below. Like I said, not a sponsorship or anything like that, just a channel we rather like, friends of the channel. So please do check them out, link in the description below. And let's get on with today's video. In the 1993 movie Tombstone, Doc Holliday, portrayed by actor Val Kilmer, is depicted as a good guy at heart, helping Wyatt Earp to keep order and law in the dangerous Old West town of Tombstone, Arizona. As is the case with Earp, there is a mound of evidence that the real Doc Holliday wasn't nearly so squeaky clean. Here is the truth behind the legend of the slickest gunslinger in the West, Doc Holliday. Born John Henry Holliday on August 4, 1851 in Griffin, Georgia, today a suburb of Atlanta, Doc was the second child born to his parents, Henry Major and Alice Jane Holliday. But his older sister passed away during childbirth. He would remain an only child. His father was a veteran of several wars, including the Cherokee Indian War and the Mexican-American War. When he returned in 1848 from the Mexican-American War, he brought with him an orphaned Mexican boy by the name of Francisco Hidalgo. It is said when John Henry was a young child, Francisco taught him how to become the quickest draw in the West. Growing up on a southern frontier farm was tough living with humid air and erratic weather. John's family was Scottish-Irish, like many in the region, and he was raised Protestant. His mother taught him manners and etiquette, while his father regaled him with war stories and survival skills. John was but 9 years old when the Civil War broke out, and his father once again left for war, but not before moving his family even further south to the Georgia-Florida border. John attended school and was a good student, though he was noted as being somewhat rebellious. Quickly after his mother's death in May of 1866 from consumption, Major remarried to a neighbor's daughter who was 23, 8 years older than John. John's relationship with his father became strained, and he left home to attend the Pennsylvania College of Dental Surgery in 1869, one of the best dental schools in the country. Seemingly, he did quite well at school and graduated with a license in 1872. He moved to St. Louis for a period of time to join a friend's dental practice before moving back to Georgia. Now here begins the more interesting part of Holliday's life. In 1872, in a story recounted in a Doc Holliday biography written by Gary Roberts, Doc Holliday, the life and legend, but first conveyed in 1907 by noted writer Bat Masterson, Holliday first killed a man in Georgia during a racial dispute. Holliday and a few friends were at a watering hole when a group of African-American men joined them as well. Holliday did not approve and told them to leave. They didn't. He produced a gun and shot 1 to 3 men, reports vary, to death. Now, a few historians think this story may not be entirely accurate due to discrepancies in the 1907 version, but it wouldn't have been too out of character for Holliday given his preponderance towards violence. Also, around this time, he was diagnosed with tuberculosis, just like his mother, who he watched die from the disease. With no effective cure, it was thought that a dry climate could at least alleviate the symptoms. Either because he was run out of town or due to his sickness, or maybe both, he moved to the dry air of Dallas shortly thereafter in 1872. He opened a dental practice in Dallas, but it wasn't for long. According to True West magazine, Doc's constant coughing and illness kept patients away, so he had to learn how to make money another way. And that was card games and gambling. Refined, intelligent, and good at keeping a poker face, Doc excelled at Faro, where he became the dealer or banker at several saloons across Dallas. Faro was a game which pitted the banker against the other players. It was also a game that could be easily rigged. Doc was extremely good at Faro, or at least extremely good at cheating, earning himself a lot of money and a lot of enemies. Throughout the next few years, Doc was regularly arrested and fined for his gambling in Dallas. To avoid charges, he went on the run throughout the Southwest, dealing Faro at saloons all along the way. He got into more than one disagreement that required the use of, or at least the threatening of, the skills he'd learned from Francisco so many years back. He seems to have gotten into gunfights throughout Texas, Kansas, Wyoming, and New Mexico. He is also known to have sliced open a man's stomach when the man refused to follow the Faro rules that Doc had implemented. At one point, it is thought that U.S. Marshals and Texas Rangers were even after him. In 1879, he had made enough money to open his own saloon in New Mexico. He spent his time dealing Faro and drinking heavily until one night a former Army scout put up a fuss when one of Holliday's saloon girls, possibly a prostitute, told him that she wasn't in love with him. The Army scout went outside and began to fire shots into Holliday's establishment, so Doc went outside and killed the man. The following year, he found himself in Tombstone, Arizona, where history was waiting for him. Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday first became familiar, well, where else but at a Faro gaming table. As the deputy of Dodge City, Earp was on the trail of well-known train robber Dave Rudderbar and was venturing way out of his jurisdiction in pursuit. Indeed, he was nearly 400 miles and into Fort Griffin, Texas. Historians believe Earp wasn't doing this out of any sense of justice, but rather for the considerable reward money. Either way, he was directed to the Faro table of Doc Holliday, who had dealt with Rudderbar. Normally, Holliday would never talk to a lawman, but upon hearing about the reward over a game of Faro, he spilled the beans that he had heard that Rudderbar was hightailing it back to Kansas. Earp wired the information to a friend there, and Rudderbar was soon captured. It is not known if Earp shared the reward money with Holliday, nor who won their game of Faro. Also, according to a story supposedly told by Earp, possibly just a legend though, given Earp and his many biographers' known propensity to make up such stories, Holliday once saved Earp's life. In 1879, with Holliday paying a visit to Dodge City with his girlfriend, Big Nose Kate, the noted cowboy Tabo Driscoll pulled out a gun on Earp and was about to shoot him when Holliday came up behind him and placed a gun at his temple. Driscoll dropped his gun, and from then on, Earp credited Holliday with saving his life. Whether true or not, in 1881, Earp wrote a letter to Holliday asking him to join him in Tombstone, saying they could use a dentist in those parts. More likely, Earp just wanted his favorite Faro dealer by his side to help him fleece the denizens of the then prosperous silver mining town. So Doc Holliday moved to Tombstone, and that was where his legend was made and why anybody still remembers who he was. It seems Holliday's participation in the showdown at the OK Corral, or rather in a vacant lot next to the OK Corral, against Ike Clanton and his men, had more to do with his loyalty to Earp and the fact that he rarely said no to a gunfight than upholding the law. There is also some evidence that Clanton may have been spreading rumors about Holliday robbing a stagecoach and that his girlfriend, Big Nose Kate, was a prostitute. There is also a story that Clanton called Holliday and the Earps out for the fight over them having cheated Clanton in a Faro game. On the other hand, this all may have been said after the fact to give Holliday reason to be in the gunfight. The violence only took 30 seconds, and it left 3 men dead and several men injured. While no one knows for sure who fired first, it was Doc's bullet that first rendered a fatal shot. It is even written in some accounts that Clanton was not armed. But finding the truth about what happened in their gunfight is about as difficult as finding Bigfoot. In the end, Holliday, along with Earp, was put on trial for murder. He was exonerated, but several attempts were made on his life over the next few years. He eventually made his way to Colorado, where he increasingly became dependent on alcohol and opium as his health deteriorated. He died in 1887 at the young age of 37 in Glenwood Springs, Colorado, from the same illness that claimed his mother, tuberculosis. Wyatt Earp lived on and moved to Los Angeles in the early 20th century, where his story got the Hollywood treatment, most prominently in the largely fictitious but ever-popular biography Wyatt Earp Frontier Marshal. Always loyal to his friends, Earp perpetuated the myth that his card shark gunfighter pal Doc Holliday was an Old West hero. It seems, if we are taking real historical accounts and evidence into consideration, this is actually quite false. But as with Earp's Hollywoodized tale, it certainly makes a great story. So I really hope you found that video interesting. If you did, please do hit that thumbs up button below. Do not forget to subscribe. Brand new videos just like this every day of the week. Do check out some of our videos from the archives over there on the right as well. And as always, thank you for watching.